I'm not necessarily the greatest cook, so I try to do things as simply as possible.
Is this thing on? Welcome back to the Voice Podcast, created by students for students. I'm Brian Hearn, and here with me today is Ellie Steele.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Ellie?
Good. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing pretty well. Summer's been rolling along, school started up, everything's going well. How are things been going for you?
Pretty good.
So, Ellie, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about how to prepare food in a cost-effective manner for students going back to school, trying to keep within a budget, trying to eat healthy during school for people that, maybe haven't been cooking for themselves that much yet at this point, or just trying to get into a healthy habit of cooking for themselves, right?
It's pretty critical stuff. I went to St. Lawrence originally for culinary school, way too long ago, unfortunately now, but before that even, I hadn't really been cooking too much before I started working in the kitchen, and that was my first introduction to that, and it really opened up my eyes to the possibilities of food, and also just the necessary ability to cook for yourself. Relying on takeout and prepackaged food, it's not good, especially for a student life. And so, what are your experiences with food? What are you bringing here?
Well, I'm a holistic nutritionist. I've been working in that field for about 20 years. So for me, cooking is a necessary evil to eat well, because I'm not necessarily the greatest cook. So I try to do things as simply as possible and as efficiently as possible. So,
Okay.
So for me, it's more about the nutritional side of things, and then trying to make healthy food, interesting, fun, like you said, cost effective, and hopefully maybe creative, because once I get rolling on something, then I really do enjoy it. But it's not something I'm drawn to necessarily. So yeah, so we can bring in some of our expertise here and talk about this topic.
That's perfect. And I think you touched on something really important there, is the creativity. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just have fun with it, right? Cooking is, it's obviously something we have to do to live, but it can be a really fun process. And, making food with just by yourself or for other people, with your friends, it's just a really fun social thing, and something that, you can really integrate into even a busy life. Cooking can become a part of a good, healthy habits and balance in life. So
Yeah, it absolutely can. And I'll just say, don't get discouraged by failures, because I've had plenty of failures. But, sometimes you try a dish or you try a spice and oh, that doesn't work. Then you learn, right? You don't do that again next time. And sometimes you just have to eat it anyway because it's all you have. And you'll definitely learn. But, yeah.
All right. Here's a tip off the bat. If it's the last bit of food you have in the kitchen, maybe that's not the time to be creative, but I totally understand. When you have a full pantry, that's all right, I'm going to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. When it's that last meal you have before you're going to get an OSAP check or your paycheck, that's the time you just play it safe and you just go for just whatever you got around.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so why don't we talk about these buying strategies for keeping within a budget? Do you have some tips for that?
Yeah, there's a couple things personally. Honestly, for me, last day of sale items are a huge thing, especially when you can get a large cut of beef or something like that. They're so great because you can cut it down, and you can turn it into a couple different portions, freeze some of it off, cook it off right away, and then you have meals for days. How about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, same. So I was at the grocery store this morning, and I found that I didn't realize this before. If you go in the morning, yesterday's meat, there's a good selection of 50% off stickers on yesterday's meat, right? Earlier in the day. So I didn't realize that because I was there quite early this morning, and I got a whole bunch of stuff from my freezer. So I think that's great too. And I mean, using flyers, I think, is a good way to kind of think about what am I going to eat this week? So as a nutritionist, I'm always telling people to try to plan their meals in advance, not their breakfast and their lunch, just kind of plan your dinners.
Yeah.
If you figure out what you're going to have for dinner, breakfasts are easier generally for a lot of people, and you can always use leftovers for lunch, right? So if you have a store close by, get that flyer or get their app, or usually you can get their flyers online, and then plan your meals for the week around what's on sale that week. So especially the cuts of meat. So have a look and see what's going to be on sale, because those are generally your more expensive items. And then the processed foods, those are always expensive too. So trying to avoid those as much as possible and go with the whole foods, like the real vegetables are going to be cheaper. The more processed something is, the more butchered it is or processed, the higher the price tag, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when regards to that too, like especially when the big ticket items, sometimes they'll have sales, like you buy two, get like half off, things like that. And those are the times where it's really smart idea, especially for students. Not everyone's gonna have a car. It's gonna be hard to get to the grocery store. Those are great times where like you plan your trips and you go with maybe like a couple of friends.
Yeah.
What you do is like you go and you do a large shopping trip together, and then you either plan to make a couple of meals together, or you just split up your purchases afterwards. But you can take advantage of the bulk deals, and you can take advantage of going to all these places, and it saves you guys all a massive amount of time. Which is, again, I know it's hard when you don't have a car and you're trying to take public transportation, especially with COVID. You don't want to be spending too much time out there. You want to just do a once a week trip. You hit a couple of spots, and I think that's a really good way to go about it personally.
Yeah, exactly.
What about like membership programs or loyalty programs?
Yeah,
Do you use those a lot?
too. So I do. I have the PC Optimum points.
Okay.
And I also have a vehicle, so I buy gas at Esso so that I get more points.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone that has a car and is getting gas too, it gives you more points. So it just builds up points, and I have the app, and every week it gives me the deals, and it's based on an algorithm that looks at your shopping habits. So it's stuff that you would buy, and you'll get points for those foods if you buy them in that week. And then you can save them if you don't need it that week. You can say save for next week.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then when you get those points, like it takes $40 to $60 off my grocery bill a month easily. So because Loblaws prices tend to be more expensive in general, but if you take advantage of those loyalty programs, because that's what stores want to do. They want to keep you coming back to their store. So basically, if you're a loyalty program member, you're going to get those essentially sale prices on those items that you use most often. So, and they're free to join. You just go online and sign up for an Optimum card, and they send it to you. And yeah, it's super easy. So that's one of the ones that I use. Costco is another good one, right? If you're
for sure.
house with someone and you can get one membership and go once a week, like you said, because their prices are usually amazing on items that people will eat every day. So so those are some good ones that I take advantage of. Now, I want to ask you as a cook about the types of equipment that you think people should invest in. So what are some things that you think people should definitely spend a little money on to make it easier in the kitchen?
Well, honestly, the one thing every person has to have a kitchen. You have to have a good knife. You're not going to go anywhere with that. Like a good chef's knife, they're just incredibly versatile. Once you get comfortable with it, you can do a lot of different things. But having a good knife, a paring knife, a bread knife, those three things are essential to absolutely any kitchen. That, and honestly, a cast iron pan. The cast iron pan, you can make sauces, you can fry things, you can basically do roasts, you can do just about anything you want with it. And as long as you treat them properly, they're gonna last forever. Like you can have like multi-generational cast iron pans.
Absolutely, I have my grandmother's cast iron pan.
Oh no way!
I do.
It has some amazing flavor, I'm sure.
I don't take as good a care of it as I should, but
yeah. And some people say like you have to like you can't get them wet, you can't do all these things. Like they're not gremlins, okay? You can use soap and water. You don't want to like attack them with a steel brush, but like they're very hardy. They're gonna take gonna take some pounding, all right?
Yeah.
You can buy them at the beginning of college, and it's not going to look like it by the end of college. It'll still be fine.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that you find you need in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, definitely the cast iron pan. I'm with you there. I also like a Dutch oven or something, like a big stock pot that can double as a saucepan or as a pot, right? Yeah. So soups, I think, are a really good idea for batch cooking and for saving some money and having easy lunches. So a big pot of some kind, I think is an essential. Yeah. I couldn't live without that. And if you can get an Instant Pot, I don't know how you feel about the Instant Pot, but
I have one. I love it. I've been making 45-minute ribs. It's like just do a dry rub, do a rub the night before. You throw them in for 45 minutes. What I like to do is I like to let them chill for a bit in the fridge, and then I'll throw them on barbecue, so you get both like nice tender, and then you get the char on the outside. Oh my god, it's just heavenly.
Yeah, and so fast. For anyone that doesn't know, an Instant Pot is like an electric pressure cooker.
Yeah.
So you can cook things so quickly, like in a third of the cooking time usually, right? Like
Oh,
beans, chili, spaghetti sauce, meats, roasts, a whole chicken. Like you can do a whole chicken in 20 minutes.
yeah. My aunt makes yogurt with hers, which I actually find
Oh yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, and I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. I haven't got a chance to try it yet, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
there's
big fan of
plenty.
yogurts, probiotics, all that kind of thing. So that'd be really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, for
So
sure.
another thing that we haven't mentioned is like, so you have to have like, instant pot if you can, great, Dutch oven. These are all good things. Cutting boards. You gotta
Yeah,
have at least a couple of cutting boards. You want, realistically, it'd be good to have at least three. You want to have one for your meats, one for your veggies, and then basically one for things like cheese and stuff like that. It's not really that essential, but just, if you're gonna wash it off between each time, but make sure you don't have cross contamination.
yeah.
Another thing is mixing bowls. You can't do anything without mixing bowls. Especially when you're doing any kind of large batch prep, cooking, things like that. Chop up your veggies, put in a mixing bowl, keep them differentiated, and then you can just like make it. Just work your way around the bowl, throw it in the pot, and Tupperware. You're
Yes.
not going to be able to store anything if you don't have Tupperware, folks.
Yeah.
Now you can get that shit for cheap, and it's not really a big deal at all. So those things right there, I think that's just about like those are the things you really need. Maybe a colander, a strainer, for
Yeah.
pasta. But like
Yeah.
if you have those essentials, like honestly, those kind of things right there, you spend well under $100, and you can have a nicely equipped kitchen for cooking for yourself or for a couple other people. And if you're doing for more than that, pool some resources. I'm
Right.
sure all your friends have some pots you guys can throw together for a big meal.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So now with college living, of course, I know there's going to be some restrictions and there's going to be some things that people are missing from their diets. Like, what are some things that students need to be looking out for with their diets?
Yeah, so the most important thing I think to as a foundational is protein. Protein
Okay.
intake is really important, and it's really easy to not get enough protein, especially for someone that's newly away from home, because meats can be kind of intimidating to cook. There's this huge push towards vegetarianism and veganism right now, so there's misinformation around that, and people aren't really recognizing how much protein they really get and how much are in different foods. So I think that that's important. So just as a basic, so people kind of understand, a sedentary male, so not active, not doing anything, just sitting on the couch, needs at least 56 grams of protein a day just to prevent a deficiency. So that's not like an optimal intake. That's the amount you need to not get sick. And a woman needs about 46 grams, just sedentary, not active, just to prevent deficiency. So that doesn't sound like that much, but let's look at it. So if you have a bagel with cream cheese for breakfast, that's 10.5 grams of protein.
Okay, really interesting.
Actually, it's 12. It's 12.7 because the cream cheese adds some. So like 12 grams of protein. So a bagel does have quite a bit of protein, but it's not a complete protein. It's protein from a grain. So it's doesn't have all the essential amino acids.
Exactly, yeah.
It's still a protein, but it's just not as easily bioavailable as a protein with all the essential amino acids.
Yeah, for sure.
So then let's say you have 2 slices of pizza with meat for lunch. Yeah. That's 7 and change grams of protein. Not a lot.
But even with like pepperoni and stuff like that, it's going to be pretty fatty. It's not going to give you that much actual protein. It's kind of more that faux protein where you think you're getting a lot of it, but you're not in reality, right?
I'm being generous here. So
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't count that either, but yeah, so just right. And then let's say you have a 6-inch meatball sub for dinner. This is kind of a typical college diet, right? Bagel, cream cheese at Tim Hortons, coffee. You grab a couple slices of pizza for lunch, and you have a sub after class or something, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's 41 grams of protein. That doesn't even meet the basic requirements for men or women, right?
Yeah. It's getting close to, if you stack them all together, you're getting close to that. But that's what you said, the deficiency amount. That's not anywhere near optimal, right? Like deficiency.
And those aren't great quality proteins either, right?
The quality matters, eh?
Yeah. And so let's say you have 2 eggs for breakfast, or ideally 3. I would say 3 eggs is a serving, because that's going to give you a decent amount of protein. Then you have a salad or, a wrap or something that has 3 ounces of chicken for lunch. That's going to give you 26 grams. And then let's say you have a cup of spaghetti sauce with pasta for dinner. That's going to give you about 20 grams. So now you're getting closer. Now you're at about 60 grams for the day. So that's getting you a little bit over that bare minimum. And that's what I would say would be the bare minimum, especially for people that are in college. First year, stress, school. if they're working out at all or playing any sport, that you got to have even more than that.
True.
So you can see how tricky it would be for people to eat like eggs for breakfast, chicken for lunch, meat for dinner, like spaghetti. If you're not able to cook for yourself and have those leftovers, that makes it tricky. So I just want people to be aware it's not as easy as you think. And one of my big kind of pet peeves is peanut butter.
Okay.
I love peanut butter, don't get me wrong, but
Everyone
a lot
does.
of people think that peanut butter is high protein food, and it really isn't. It's a high fat food. So 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is, a serving of peanut butter, really only has 7 grams of protein.
Okay, interesting. Now,
that's
if you were to add it to like a bagel and like a glass of milk, like would we be getting anywhere near like a decent level, or is that still pretty off?
To 20 if it was with milk.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
close. Something at least, right?
Yeah, it's something, but it still wouldn't be a complete protein either. It's a plant-based protein, and we could argue about that all day long, but it's when you don't have all the essential amino acids, it's not as bioavailable. You need actually more protein to make up for a protein that's not as bioavailable. So that requirement goes up if you're depending on those plant-based protein sources.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's about 14% higher if you're dependent on plant-based.
That's actually really interesting. Well, we'll have to do maybe in the road we'll do a cooking episode where we talk about some vegetarian ideas where we can help people that are trying to ease more towards that lifestyle into like making some good choices. But one thing I want to ask you too is like, so you're talking about making pasta and chicken and things like that. Now, to me personally, like that sounds like it could consume a lot of my day. What are some tips and tricks you would have to saving time so you're not spending like 2 or 3 hours a day cooking your meals? Because that doesn't really seem realistic, unfortunately.
Yeah. You probably have something to add to this too, but I mean, roasting a chicken. Yeah. So if you've got a chicken ready to go in the oven, it takes care of itself. Yeah, like I would just throw that in the oven. I might throw it in at 350 and then turn it down after 20 minutes or something. Cool. But that's what I would do. I don't even necessarily spice it. But sometimes you can throw some oil or some seasoning on it, and then I just throw it in the oven, put a lemon in the body cavity or something, some herbs, right? And then like an hour, 15 minutes, get a meat thermometer. Maybe that's another essential.
Oh, good call. Having a thermometer, especially if you're doing large batch cooking, it's essential.
Yeah. So, and you can get the ones that beep at you when it's done.
Yeah.
So you throw it in the oven, you go study or you go do whatever you got to do. It takes care of itself. The Instant Pot is great there too, because you can throw stuff in the morning while you're in the shower.
Yeah.
And have it ready, or even have it, because the Instant Pot also works as a slow cooker.
Yeah.
So you can throw it in the morning. It's ready when you get home at night. So, and you can throw a whole chicken in that too. And same with the spaghetti sauce, right? You just have to brown the meat. You have to brown the meat and the onion together. You should talk about this because this is your thing, but
no. You say you know how to cook, but like everything you're talking about, you're hitting all the good things. So like with meat, you gotta get that. It's called the Maillard reaction, where basically is browning the meat and caramelizing it. And actually, that's one of the big reasons why humans are able to advance, is because we figure out cooking, because it does unlock a whole extra tier of the actual nutrients from it, and we can get so much more, which is why we're here today. But yeah, I agree. Like things like the Instant Pot are great if people have the resources to get one. If not, something as you mentioned before, the Dutch oven is fantastic. Honestly, like
pick up a cheap slow cooker too at the secondhand store, because people are taking those left, right, and center to Value Village now, because
absolutely.
So that's all I had for years, was just a slow cooker or a crock pot.
For sure. Or honestly, if you're gonna be at home all day, like as long as you're there or someone is there, having a pot in the stove is fine, or a low simmer if you want to make a soup stock, or you want to make a super something along those lines. But those things are still like more like they're fire and forget, and they're great. Some other things I like to do to save time are just essentially like honestly par cooking or large batch cooking, where like I'll buy like 5-pound bag of potatoes, and then what I'll do is I'll just take a bit of time and I'll just like chop them up, and then say like I'll roast like 2 pounds of potatoes at once. Or I'll boil a couple of pounds of potatoes at once. And so you don't cook them all the way through. But then that way what you do is later on, like, so if you say, you cook up a whole chicken, and for dinner you had a leg. Now, next dinner you want to have a different leg, the other leg, you want to have the same thing. And you can add different veggies, or you saw some different veggies last time. You can have a different sauce, and then you can cook your potatoes different way. You can fry them, you can roast them, whatever. And it kind of takes what essentially is like, could essentially be the same meal more or less, and it makes it different. So that's kind of some of that creativity we're talking about, which is essential because I know it's hard to eat the same thing meal after meal. Like I'm kind of used to it. You know, like I can eat a hamburger or a sandwich, whatever, like 3 meals a day. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna add different things into each time. I'm gonna add a little bit of different sauces, and that really, you know, if your palate's not happy.
Individual.
Sorry.
I find that that's very individual. There's some people that love routine and they can eat the same thing over and over and they're good. And then there's other people that have to have variety. So if you're one of those people that has to have variety, like you're saying, you can add that in just by having those ingredients ready to go. Yeah. And then change up your spices or change up your fat, right? Yeah.
For sure. Great idea. And like things like that too are great because like I said, changing up for different palates and tastes, it kind of works like, so if you have, say, you know, like if you were smart and thought ahead of time and you cooked off a large batch of ground beef or something, and like suddenly, you know, it's like Friday night, you want to get together with some friends. Like, so if you have something like that prepped up, ready to go, get done class, you can grab whatever these like par-cooked leftovers you have together and you can go over and you can make a nice little meal with your friends, which is social, it saves you money. Sorry?
Nachos.
Oh my God, exactly. Oh.
Ground beef, you got ground beef in the fridge, you got nachos, baby.
Perfect. So, you know, actually on that line, like, it made me think of a recipe idea. One of my favorite things. It's honestly just basically leaving like a little nacho bowl. And like, you know, if you have some sort of, you know, ground meat or refried beans or something like that, a little bit of salsa in the fridge, sour cream, like leftover bag of nachos and some veggies, and you have a nice little fiesta salad bowl. And
I'm hungry.
Exactly, right. Man, we were serving some at where I work last night, and it just kind of got me thinking about this. I'm like, man, it really is just the best little leftover meal because you can just take all these remnants of things, like the last bit of sour cream, the last bit of salsa, and you can make a really nice little composed dish. It looks like you spent 30 minutes on it, but it's just leftovers. And like,
I love that.
So what, like along those lines though, what are some recipe ideas that you love making? Like, what are some ones that you would like to just tell the students as a good standard maybe?
Yeah, so I find my go-to if I'm busy, if I have any kind of leftover veggies in the fridge. So usually if I'm cooking anything, I always make extra. Yeah. So I'll have something left over generally in the fridge. And then if I don't have a protein source ready to go, eggs are the thing. So eggs in the pan with those leftover veggies and some cheese and some Parmesan. And if I've got some fresh herbs, I'm going to throw that in there. And that's like 10 minutes dinner, right? Or, you know, whatever I need. So that's one of my kind of a go-tos, just any kind of egg dish with some leftover veggies. I find that that's quick, easy, throw it in my cast iron pan, a little bit of fat, and away you go. That's one of my favorites. What about you?
Honestly, something similar. Like me personally, I like to just cook off, as mentioned before, like, you know, I'll do like large batch of potatoes or rice, and then you can do something like an egg stir fry, or like an egg fried rice is like just a really easy, nice little thing to do. And it's like some things I always keep in the kitchen personally. I always have bell peppers, zucchini, onions, tomatoes, mushrooms, because those are the kind of things that just fit within a large different kind of cooking styles. So like, you know, one of the dishes I made recently was, you know, going with the pasta dish. Those ingredients together just make a perfect, nice little pasta sauce, some ground beef, you know, a little bolognese. Good to go. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. And it's so easy to find recipes now too. Like I found when I first started cooking, we didn't, you know, I mean, Google wasn't a thing. I'm aging myself here, but it wasn't. So you had to have books like these things. You had to open it, like read the paper, and you got all your crap all over it while you were trying to cook. Now you get all over your phone. But an app like just the cooking apps, right? Like there's apps now that can do your meal planning for you and give you a recipe list or a grocery list, and like utilize some of that stuff because there's some great free apps. Just like have a look at what's available and then get some ideas. I'm the type of person that hardly ever follows a recipe.
Yeah, same.
Some people love a recipe. They want to know exactly what order and what ingredients. That's not really me. I'll take a recipe, kind of loose recipe, and then I'll just go with whatever I have in the fridge. And it usually works out fine. That does take some skill, right? Like that takes some experience until you get to that point. So following a recipe, there's nothing wrong with that when you're first starting out, but don't be afraid to deviate a little bit from recipe. If you don't have an ingredient, there's probably a substitution. And I mean, just Google it. Like sour cream, if you don't have sour cream, you can use plain yogurt.
Yeah. And don't be afraid if you don't have the right ingredient and don't think it's going to ruin the dish. You know, it may not be the exact thing, but you know, you tried, And I'm sure they'll still taste good. It just won't be the exact same. And that's not really a
Yeah,
big deal.
it never is anyway, in my experience.
Yeah.
It never looks like the picture. Don't expect it to look like the picture.
No, it never does. Maybe shout out one of those apps or two you're talking about, just for students for help with the meal plan. What's an app that you use in that regard?
Well, this is a paid one, but it's one that a lot of my clients use, and it's more for fitness too. But Renaissance periodization. But there's 3 or 4 that I've checked out over the years. A lot of them are paid, but there are a few free ones, and even just like All Cooks. Like if you go Google any kind of recipe, All Recipes, I think it's called.
All Recipes is an amazing website. I love that one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have an app too. So any kind of app like that, that's just a recipe app, I would say, it's great for ideas.
No, that's really smart. I like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for the talk, Ellie. It was really great. Is there anything you want to shout out? Any social media handles, websites, anything like that?
Well, for me, if people can contact me through my student email, that's fine. Cool. If they have questions about holistic nutrition or anything like that. But you can also, my website, evolutionwellness.ca, if people are interested in that. But it's a little bit, not just nutrition. There's other things there too. But yeah, what about you?
I'm pretty off social media, though I'm probably going to be fixing it. I think for business reasons and for this, I'll probably set up an Instagram handle, which I'll let people know when that happens. For now, if people want to reach out to me, brian.hearn@student.sl.1.ca. I'm willing to talk about business or cooking or any other subject, really. And I think that's all we have for today. So thank you, folks, for tuning in. Hopefully we gave you some good information. And thanks again, Ellie.